Hi there, welcome back to your favorite deep dive show on stories contemporary and consequential for India. This week, a lot happened from Kashmir to Kanyakumari and from Kutch to Kameng. That hit the news wheel. But like we always do on this show, pick one each from domestic and foreign fronts. A clash of governors with their governments panned out down south in Tamil Nadu and Karnataka and Kerala this week. Not a first in the states, but not good either. Let's get deeper into the constitutional issue. On the foreign affairs side, the week proved one general and one specific thesis. The general one that you can make a bully back off if you stare down. And sooner you do it, earlier you can have the monkey off your back. The specific one that Trump always chickens out, taco, as it is called, proved vis-a-vis the American president's posturing on Greenland. Let's get going.
Hello, Mark. We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable.
There's a kind of deal making on the Wall Street these days. It's called TACO deals, which stands for Trump Always Chickens Out, TACO. In a typical TACO deal, traders would take short or long positions based on a Trump announcement rather than make a direct purchase of a particular stock. The reason being that whatever Trump announces, he rolls it back later. Of course, with some bluff and bluster. The argument is, if you have the eye and the patience to see through Trump's real actions beyond his words, you can game it to your advantage. One such episode came in this week, after a month-long verbal campaign to take over Greenland, if need be, militarily. Post the decapitating strike on Venezuela, capturing their president Maduro, the Greenland threat looked as real as John Foster Dulles would have imagined in his brinkmanship games. The markets watched with bated breath. And then the penny dropped. Trump rolled back from Davos, Switzerland, while participating in the World Economic Forum. What you and I got to see on the face of it was bluff and bluster. Sample this.
And this, to get to this rare earth, you got to go through hundreds of feet of ice. That's not the reason we need it. We need it for strategic national security and international security. This enormous unsecured island is actually part of North America, on the northern frontier of the Western Hemisphere. That's our territory. It is therefore a core national security interest of the United States of America. And in fact, it's been our policy for hundreds of years to prevent outside threats from entering our hemisphere, and we've done it very successfully. We've never been stronger than we are now.
The markets crashed. By evening, we had Donald Trump announcing truce. Not without optics, of course. A meeting with the European leaders, who have shown spine of late, gave the US president the ramp off he was looking for.
We never asked for anything, and we never got anything. We probably won't get anything unless I decide to use excessive strength and force where we would be, frankly, unstoppable. All the United States is asking for is a place called Greenland. We were a powerful force then, but we are a much more powerful force now, after I rebuilt the military in my first term and continue to do so today. We have a budget of $1.5 trillion.
While the ramp-off was subtle, the stare back at the bully was not so. For the first time in recent memory, Europe literally girded up its loins and showed readiness for a combat. Almost every leader stood up to be counted. I need to bring to you the relevant parts from each of them. Here's Emmanuel Macron of France, who literally led the charge against Trump.
I mean, a shift towards autocracy against democracy, more violence, more than 60 wars in 2024, an absolute record, even if I understood a few of them were fixed. And conflict has become normalized, hybrid, expanding into new domains, space, digital, information, cyber, trade, and so on. It's as well a shift towards a world without rules, where international law is trampled underfoot, and where the only law that seems to matter is that of the strongest, and imperial ambitions are resurfacing. Obviously, the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine, which will enter into its 4th year next month, and conflicts continue in the Middle East and across Africa. This is as well a shift towards a world without effective collective governance, and where multilateralism is weakened by powers that obstruct it or turn away from it, and rules are undermined. And I can multiply the examples of international bodies.
After this analysis of what Trump's America was doing to the global rules-based order came the prescription or the solution. Listen in.
That the rule of the game is just the rule of law, it's a good place. And I think this is a good place for today and for tomorrow. So we will be committed during 2026 to try to deliver this global agenda in order to fix global imbalances through more cooperation. And we will do our best in order to have a stronger Europe.
There's a clear military message. If not Trump, his team sure would have got it. Trump, of course, got back with a joke on the French president's glares.
Emmanuel Macron, I watched him yesterday with those beautiful sunglasses. What the hell happened?
But let's wait for the conclusion. Here's Alexander Stubb, Prime Minister of this smallish Finland, sitting atop Europe like a fin on a fish, right next to Russia.
First is a direct answer to the question of this panel, can Europe defend itself? My answer is unequivocally yes. Assumption that the United States would cut off completely any kind of work.
Yeah.
Well, if we look at the defense composure of Europe by and large, and a country like Finland, so how do we do it? We have conscription. 1 million have done it. We can mobilize 280,000 soldiers within weeks. We have 62 F-18s. Your next question is going to be, do they fly without Americans? No, they don't. But do we trust that they will continue to fly because it's in the interest of America to do so? Yes. We just bought 64 F-35s. We have the biggest artillery in Europe together with Poland. We have long-range missiles, land, sea, and air. We don't have this because we're worried about Stockholm, right? So the bottom line is that if you ask me the question that can the Finnish military defend itself against a Russian attack, the whole defense posture of the way in which you do it, yes, we can.
Guess what? This is not even NATO or entire Europe, just Finland. Then came a very German-looking Friedrich Merz, reading a tough message to Trump.
These shifts have the most profound ramifications for our freedom, for our security, and for our prosperity. In these weeks and months, we are witnessing a new era has already begun. Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine has been the most drastic expression so far. But change runs much deeper. China, with strategic foresight, has worked its way into the ranks of the great powers. The United States' global pole position is being challenged. And Washington reacts by radically reshaping its foreign and security policy.
The German Chancellor not only called for European unity against great power politics, but also slipped in China and India to rub it in. He not only announced that he was off to Beijing next week, but also skipped Trump's Board of Peace event while still in Davos. And we are not done yet. You need to listen to Ursula von der Leyen, who's going to be here in Delhi next week as chief guest on January 26 Republic Day Parade.
An issue which cuts to the heart of all three of these imperatives. When it comes to the security of the Arctic region, Europe is fully committed. And we share the objectives of the United States in this regard. For instance, our EU member, Finland, one of the newest NATO members, is selling its first icebreakers to the United States. And this shows that we have the capability right here in the ice, so to speak. It shows that our northern NATO members have Arctic-ready forces right now. And above all, that Arctic security can only be achieved together. And this is why the proposed additional tariffs are a mistake, especially between long-standing allies. The European Union and the United States have agreed to a trade deal last July. And in politics, as in business, a deal is a deal. And when friends shake hands, it must mean something.
In a very mainland European understated way, the leader of the EU told Trump to bugger off. Mark Rutte, the NATO chief and former Prime Minister of the Netherlands, who had earlier sought to go Dutch with Trump by calling him daddy, has also felt the pressure on Greenland of late. He too let out some steam in front of Trump, in a however roundabout fashion at Davos.
I did this morning when I was in a panel. I want to thank you again for what you did since coming in January, Trump 47. Basically getting the Europeans and Canada to really step up, and that led to the enormous success we had in The Hague with the 5%, which is crucial to defend ourselves and to also equalize with what the US is paying. This was a problem already there since Eisenhower. I always tell the Europeans, you are completely committed to NATO, but there is also that one irritant, and that is this factor, that the Europeans were not paying the same as the US was paying. And we solved it, and this is crucial also because we need the money to protect ourselves. There's one thing I heard you say yesterday and today. You were not absolutely sure that the Europeans would come to the rescue of the US if you will be attacked. Let me tell you, they will.
And it was not just the European itch to get back at Trump's bullying. Mark Carney of Canada, which was shown by Trump as part of the United States in a map he posted on his Truth Social account, literally called out the wrecking ball thrown at the international rules-based order by the American president.
It seems that every day we're reminded that we live in an era of great power rivalry, that the rules-based order is fading, that the strong can do what they can and the weak must suffer what they must. And faced with this logic, there is a strong tendency for countries to go along to get along, to accommodate, to avoid trouble, to hope that compliance will buy safety. Well, it won't. And the question for middle powers like Canada is not whether to adapt to the new reality. We must. The question is whether we adapt by simply building higher walls or whether we can do something more ambitious. In a world of great power rivalry, the countries in between have a choice: compete with each other for favor or to combine to create a third path with impact. We shouldn't allow the rise of hard power to blind us to the fact that the power of legitimacy, integrity, and rules will remain strong if we choose to wield them together.
The Carney speech is in fact being dubbed as the most honest introspection by the West since it took charge of the global order through the Bretton Woods system post the Second World War. Only that the introspection has been forced by the Trump wrecking ball finally coming home. Guess what? Why is this important? Because you can pass off Macron and Merz and Mark and Stubb as being on the other side of the Trumpist political divide, but not Meloni, Giorgia Meloni of Italy. Listen to what she had to say.
Volevo dirvi che la previsione di un aumento dei dazi nei confronti di quelle nazioni che hanno scelto di contribuire alla sicurezza della Groenlandia, secondo me è un errore e ovviamente non la condivido. Condivido l'attenzione che la presidenza americana attribuisce, come vi ho detto molte volte, alla Groenlandia e in generale all'Artico, che è una zona strategica nella quale chiaramente va evitata una eccessiva ingerenza di attori che possono essere ostili, ma credo che in questo senso andasse letta.
She not only calls Trump's Greenland tariffs a mistake, but also passed the Board of Peace, calling it incompatible with Italy's constitution. European leaders have cut through the niceties they were used to in their transatlantic relations. It took them a year to reach the conclusion that you cannot indulge with a bully. The more you allow the squeeze, the harder it becomes. There are just a few world leaders, you can count them on your fingers, who understood this early on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi is one of them. Remember that Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick quote that the deal with India did not happen because PM Modi did not call President Trump. You know what? Even if the call would have happened and the deal materialized, it would not have meant anything. As the United Kingdom and the European Union realized, any deal with Trump is not worth the paper it's signed on. It can change the next day or with the next post. Give it to the foresight of Prime Minister Modi that he avoided a photo op with Trump post-op Sindoor in DC. In the one phone call that the Americans forced on him in the heat of Op Sindoor on June 17, Prime Minister stuck to the script that Trump had no role in India-Pakistan ceasefire, giving no opportunity to the American president to go public with anything that could have damaged India's position on Pakistan. Another courtesy call on Prime Minister's birthday on September 17, yet again gave no results that Trump could write or post home about. It was good cop, bad cop strategy, with Trump calling Modi great, fantastic, true friend, even as his boys Lutnick and Besant went after us, calling India laundromat of Putin once. The Modi government kept its cool. No statement from the Prime Minister, just some intellectual acrobatics from the External Affairs Minister and some fact-checking by mid-level diplomats, like in this case.
We remain interested in a mutually beneficial trade deal between two complementary economies and look forward to concluding it. Incidentally, Prime Minister and President Trump have also spoken on phone on 8 occasions during 2025, covering different aspects of our wide-ranging partnership.
While Modi's restrained defiance of Trump's heads I win, tails you lose engagement strategy has brought short-term headwinds to India-US ties, and the turbulence might last the term of the 47th president, it has made the world, and specifically the global south, realize that they can count on India as a serious player in defense of international rules-based order. The great power game is still on, and India still has a decade to go before we count as one of the great powers. Through the 1 year of Trump, we have shown the will to be worthy of the mantle. And that's what counts. Moving on. A constitutional crisis seems to be brewing down south, or at the very least, an avoidable, unseemly row in the states of Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala going on between the respective governors and the governments. It so happens that the governors are all appointed by the BJP-ruled centre, and the states have governments ruled by the indie bloc parties, the DMK, the Congress, and the left, respectively. And the feuds are not new. This was 4th year in a row that Governor R.N. Ravi had issues with the opening address of the MK Stalin government and preferred a walkout over reading the script. Similarly, in the case of Thawar Chand Gehlot with the Siddaramaiah government in Bengaluru and Rajendra Arlekar in Kerala refusing to criticize himself in the Vijayan government's prepared text before the assembly. All the 3 incidents happened this week, and hence this scrutiny. As per both the Constitution and Convention, the governor's address to an assembly session is drafted by the elected government and sets out its own legislative agenda, as it happens in the case of Centre and Parliament and the President. In Chennai, Ravi accused the Stalin government of inserting what he described as unsubstantiated claims and misleading statements in the speech and alleged that the national anthem had been disrespected. He also criticized the government's portrayal of investment figures and its handling of women's safety and atrocities against Dalits, arguing that key issues had been ignored. Stalin, of course, responded by moving a resolution in the assembly terming the governor's action a violation of constitutional conventions and legislative traditions. Karnataka Governor Thawarchand Gehlot walked out of the assembly after reading only 2 lines of his address, objecting to 11 paragraphs critical of the centre. Congress leaders slammed the move as unconstitutional, alleging violation of Articles 176 and 163. CM Siddaramaiah called it a breach of constitutional duty and said the government may approach the Supreme Court over the issue. Only last year in April, we had the Supreme Court deliver a landmark judgment on the governor-state relations in a case that was brought about by the Stalin government against Ravi for holding back assent to 10 or 12 of the bills passed by the Tamil Nadu Assembly since 2020. Ravi's refusal to give assent was called illegal and unconstitutional, even as the ruling deemed the bills as passed. The court also put a 3-month deadline for assent, not only by the governors, but also the President of India. The verdict led to a constitutional furore, with the centre getting back to the apex court with a presidential reference. It was seen as transgression of judiciary into the domain of the executive. While the Constitution leaves assent to the discretion of the governor or the president, it does not prescribe a timeline, a loophole which was used in the instance of Tamil Nadu. The Supreme Court took the view that this cannot be interpreted to allow an indefinite delay, as it would amount to misuse of discretion. The verdict, like the present controversy, harks back to constitutional debates. Is the governor meant to act as a political agent of the centre or merely a constitutional figurehead? Can the Supreme Court use its powers under Article 142 and transgress into the executive domain? These issues go into the heart of India's federal structure and the functional relationship among state legislatures, governors, and the union government. While the Supreme Court found a halfway house, overturning the 3-month deadline of its own April order, the issue of governors versus the state governments remains unresolved as it comes out of the present standoff in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, and Kerala. One might get an impression that the Modi government-appointed governors are on a weak footing. Public memory is short. This, in fact, goes back to the times of Pandit Nehru and the first elected government of independent India. The founding fathers of our constitution debated at length whether we should have elected or nominated governors. They ultimately decided on having nominated governors rather than elected. The latter could become an alternate power center, leading to a standing rift between the governor and the chief minister. However, even in those early days, a problem arose in Bihar. Governor Jairam Das Daulat Ram, a veteran and respected congressman, criticized the functioning of his own government, his own chief minister, Dr. Sri Krishna Sinha. The latter took up the matter with the centre and offered to resign. Both Nehru and Sardar Patel decided to honor the mandate of the people of their state. Jairam Das Daulat Ram was transferred to Assam. The misuse of Article 356 in dismissing state governments through the Raj Bhavans began in Nehru's times itself, perfected as an art form during Indira Gandhi and subsequent governments. While the abuse of Article 356 has become rare post the basic structures doctrine and the Bombay verdict, the issue of governors being used as centre's agents has remained. Again, public memory is short. How many of the present generation would recall the name of Ramesh Bhandari, for example, who would be off to Nainital just to play golf at his favorite course as governor of Uttar Pradesh in the 1990s? Or the instance of H.R. Bharadwaj, seeking hearings and dismissal of BJP ministers in the same Karnataka in 2010s as a Congress appointee. Kamala Beniwal in Gujarat had created so many roadblocks to routine education-related bills also of the then Modi government that the row around Ravi looks pale before it. But still, Every such episode creates a public sentiment that questions the efficacy, or in the extreme, even the raison d'etre of the office of the governor. Do we really need the Raj Bhavans, or the Lok Bhavans as they are called now? It's not a BJP versus Congress issue. It's about a federal scheme of things, very delicately enshrined in the Constitution and reasonably protected by various judgments of the Supreme Court, including the latest one in the presidential reference by the Modi government. The centre must ensure the office is not used to thwart state governments. Judicial oversight must remain available to prevent constitutional paralysis while respecting the separation of powers. That's the only way out. Thanks for watching.